ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning fan show. And I have emphasis on the award part of that because today was a special day. I announced my 2018 Fan Show Indoor Football League Awards, and very happy with my choices, which I think is the most important thing, right? It's not like there's a panel of people that vote on these. I do welcome fan feedback and input. I will reach out to some of the more trusted members of Fan Nation. You're all trusted, but some just more so than others. And I'll run a few thoughts by them, see if they can't help me break the internal tie that is the conflict within myself and my head. So I did that. And yeah, I'd say overall, very happy. There's some huge doses of irony today as a result of the awards, but we'll get around to that with headlines. We'll make a special segment about it. Only one special guest tonight. It is our weekly Battlebots segment, and so we do have a special guest for that pre-recorded segment, but it was a good one. I did it last night. And then Fan Appreciation Week will continue. Don't have a fan scheduled for tonight, but we will have plenty of fans for tomorrow night's Fan Show Appreciation Week finale. So we will talk about all things fan, football nonsense, and fan-related items this evening. And then we'll get right back into talking to you, the fans, tomorrow night. But yeah, it was a good day otherwise. We'll talk power rankings and much, much more. But that's been the story so far, and yeah, I think it's going to make for a pretty good Wednesday. You know, I love Wednesdays. So without further ado or any more delay, let's go ahead and get to today's headlines. And headlines are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. Go and hit up Ethan, Dynamite Enterprises, and he's going to help customize your world. If you can dream it, you can do it. You can put your artwork on it, trophies, banners, maybe even berets. I don't know. Lanyards, stickers, pens, pencils, cups, trophies, embroidery, screen print, you name it. He can do it, and he's one of the best in the biz as far as locally here in Spokane. But even if you're not in Spokane, please hit up Ethan because he does great work, and I trust him. That's why I had a batch of fan show shirts ordered from him, and I continue to receive just the best feedback. It's not even like, hey, you know, nice shirt, thanks. I get like full-on compliments, like this shirt is the best I've ever worn. It's fantastic. And he helped with that. We picked out the perfect colors for it. We went through a whole tour of his facility, and he's like, okay, so here's where your shirts are going to be made. This is how it's going to work. Like, he walked me through the process, and I thought that was above and beyond what needed to happen. So it was great to work with Ethan. We handpicked my colors, made sure that we got them right. He wanted to make sure that this product was the best quality. So customize your world. Hit up Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, or you can give him a jingle on his telephone device, 509-723-0140. So the headlines today, that is that the final power rankings of the 2018 IFL regular season have come out. I do not do power rankings for the postseason because I feel like it's pointless. And I don't do them for the off season, and I don't do them before the season starts because, again, I feel like that's all very pointless. So the final IFL power rankings are out. The most recent NAL power rankings are out. And then, of course, the 2018 or the second annual Fan Show Indoor Football League Awards are also out. And there's a story behind those. We'll save the best for last. But hi, I'm joined by Fozzie. Say hi, Fozzie. Say hi. No? Okay. He's just going to hang out. But anyway, yeah, the power rankings always cause of debate, and I do love doing those, and it just makes for a fun time, you know? I think it's something great that we do here on the show, and Yeah, I mean, if you want to do your own, do your own. That's really all that I have to say. Because some people, I don't understand why they throw such big fits about my rankings when it's like, okay, well, let's compare them to your rankings. Oh, wait! That's right. You don't have rankings, do you? No, you don't. You don't have rankings. So deal with it with mine, huh? Deal with my rankings, because that's what you got. IFL doesn't do official rankings. Well, power rankings, they do standings, but what fun are those? What fun are standings, Fozzie? I ask you that. I'm going to talk to you this whole show, okay? I'm going to talk to you, Fozzie. Fozzie's going to be my confidant on this episode. It's going to be a good time. Oh, he's purring. He's purring. He's excited for it. But yeah, IFL doesn't do power rankings. They do standings. So does the NAL, and I've taken it upon myself to provide you all with some power rankings week in and week out. They're weekly. They're subject to change. So here are the most recent power rankings for, we'll start with the National Arena League, which I just posted on the Fan Show's Facebook and tweeted out at Fan Show Official as well. So in 6th place, no big surprise here, Lehigh Valley Steelhawks suffered their 8th loss in a row. They are 0-8 on the season. Number 5, the Maine Mammoths, who got their 2nd win of the season over who? Yeah, you probably guessed, the Lehigh Valley Steelhawks. So 2-7 are the Maine Mammoths. No movement from those two teams whatsoever. But there was some moving and shaking in spots 4 through 2. Your new number 4 is the Jacksonville Sharks, who had the week off. But they are 6-4, and they moved down 1 from last week being number 3. Number 3 is the Columbus Lions, down 1 from last week. They were number 2. Their record is 5-3. They lost to the Carolina Cobras. They lost to the Massachusetts Pirates, who are the new number 2, up 2 from last week. They are 7-3 now after that big win with .04 seconds left. What a victory for Amir and the guys. And number 1, and still number 1, no movement. They had a bye week. They have the best record in the NAL right now and look to keep it that way. The 7-2 Carolina Cobras. Congratulations, guys, on another top spot for the NAL Power Rankings. Now then, let's get to the good stuff. The Indoor Football League, the final 2018 weekly Fan Show Official Indoor Football League Power Rankings. I think I said something like twice there, but it's a long title, but it's a good one, okay? Your final 2018 Fan Show Official Indoor Football League weekly power rankings are as follows. Number 6, the Green Bay Blizzard. 2-12, they put up a good fight. They rattled off 2 of 3, but they were both against Nebraska. Couldn't get it done against the Titans. That one game never got rescheduled. They were at the short end of a long stick and always behind the 8 ball. Coaching change earlier on in the season. I don't know if it helped. They got their 2 wins that way from the coaching change, so who knows. But I think Corey Robertson is going to do a great job, and Chris Williams has found his calling up in the Canadian mountains. He is a scout for the Montreal Alouettes. Number 5, Cedar Rapids Titans. No change there either. They finished 3-11. They needed to win in order for the argument to be made that they should be in the postseason, because they would have had the same record as the Danger had the Danger lost. But because that game never got rescheduled for Green Bay, Nebraska would clinch a week prior, which broke a lot of hearts in Cedar Rapids. Cedar Rapids now under new ownership. We talked about that yesterday. So onward and upward for the Titans. Hopefully it's a sign of things to come for them, the brighter side of things. So they finished 3-11 and number 5. Number 4 is the Nebraska Danger. Regardless of how you slice it, they are the number 4 team, because they got the 4th seed in the postseason, and their record is the 4th best in the IFL. 4-10, no change from last week, and they lost as well. So there was a chance for there to be another 4-10 team on the outside looking in, but thankfully that's not the case. But there is a 4-10 team in the postseason of the IFL. So, whatever it is, what it is. Number 3, down 2 spots, so they have been knocked off the top of the mountain. It was short-lived for them. Sioux Falls Storm, 11-3, and a lot went into that. They have losses to both the top two teams, more so for one than the other, and they really struggled against Green Bay. I mean, it was a great game as far as like the score and the contest and going into triple overtime, but considering that Green Bay was 2-11 going into that game and Sioux Falls was 10-3 going into that game, it shouldn't have even been that close of a contest. Any given weekend in the IFL, right? Any given Sunday in the NFL, that's football's rule. But yeah, this one should not have been as close as it was. Triple overtime? Come on, this isn't hockey. So Sioux Falls will finish the regular season power rankings at number 3. The bronze medal, number 2. The Arizona Rattlers, 11-3, up 1 from last week. They had a very impressive performance against the Nebraska Danger, so they definitely deserved this one. And your number 1 spot, whoop, whoop, shut up and get caught. Coming for that number 1 spot is the Iowa Barnstormers, up 1 from last week. They finished 11-3, the number 1 seed in the IFL going into the postseason. Congratulations, guys. You really earned it. And I look forward to what the postseason brings. So we get the Iowa Barnstormers hosting the Nebraska Danger and the Arizona Rattlers hosting the Sioux Falls Storm. And that will do it for your 2018 Indoor Football League Fan Show official weekly power rankings of the regular season. Like I said, there will not be postseason power rankings. Will there, Fozzie? No, there won't. Say hi. Say hi. But let's get to the awards, right? The one part of the show that you guys are all very excited for, the awards portion. So let's take a look at what I awarded to who. Like I need to be reminded. Okay, so here they are. Your 2018 The Fan Show Indoor Football League Awards winners are as follows. Best Uniform. The Arizona Rattlers, last year's winner, the Wichita Falls Nighthawks, who I thought had a great color scheme as well as design. It was beyond basic, but not overdone, right? Very simple, yet done very well. And it's a tough uniform to beat, but they're not in the league anymore. They're not a team anymore, so the award has to go to someone, and that is the Arizona Rattlers, who I feel rather simple design, but they look good. Home or away, they look clean, they look good. I'm not a fan of the nameplate uniform design where the uniform is one color and the letters or the numerals are another color, but then you have the name, which is just this blocked off rectangle with the name in it. It looks tacky, cheesy, almost like low budget kind of, and the Rattlers don't have that. So it's a very clean looking uniform, one of the best ones in the IFL, and deservedly so. They are the Rattlers. They can pay for that. Best alternate uniform, though, Green Bay Blizzard. My God, those ones were lit. They did in one game, had the claw marks that went from the midsection of the chest and the pectoral region down to the pants. And it just was a great look, really was. I still wish their logo was bigger on the helmet so it looks like less of a white splotch and blob when you're standing beyond like the 10th row in the arena, and more of what it is, which is their, Bruiser, their abominable snowman, or their Yeti, their mascot. But it looks, I still love that logo, but they have the best alternate uniform hands down, and I'm usually a big fan of like the first responders or the military night uniforms. Iowa usually does those, but man, these ones were good. So Green Bay gets best alternative uniform. Best game day communications, Arizona Rattlers, more specifically Peter Garbo. The dude is a machine. And if you knew media and what all goes into game day operations, communications, and media, you would have a tremendous amount of respect for this man, which I do. It's not the easiest to get Rattler players on the show because normally the agreement that I have with literally the other 5 teams is that if I have somebody's contact information, I reach out, they check their calendar, their schedule, they let me know, we work it out. But Arizona, very professional, and sometimes it's a headache, but it's all right because I respect them for the headache. Got to go through Pete. He approves, denies it, lets me know what night will work. He'll let me know if a guy is good for an interview or not good for an interview, which I appreciate his honesty with that, because there's been a couple of guys I had lined up that wanted to do it that he said, no, you're terrible at interviews. You're not going to do it. So I still had Arizona Rattler players on the show. It's hard to get a hold of Kevin Guy because he's a very busy man, very high demand this time of year. But Peter Garbo, the communications that come out before the game, during the game, after the game, and then week in and week out about everything going on. You can text him. He'll reply. He's got you covered for credentials. He'll make sure that you're taken care of on game day. So just a very well-oiled machine for game day communications. Best social media and back-to-back winner, recipient of this award, Sioux Falls Storm, more specifically Kaylee Shade. She is a machine as well in her own right. And, there you wouldn't even know she has a disability. With just how well run all the platforms of social media are for the Sioux Falls Storm. I mean, we're talking great visual. She does all the graphic design work. She's even done some for the show, which I am greatly appreciative of. But she was very excited to win this award again, and I told her it's a very easy decision for me because it's not just what she does visually, which is a lot of great graphics for game day or for game previews or post games with the scores at the end of each quarter, or for the preview of the game on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's that my whole thing with social media, especially at this level, is that if I can't tune into the YouTube broadcast, my big criteria is if I needed to know the score of the game near up to the minute, like damn near up to the minute, would I be able to find that on any of the major social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook? And without a doubt, Sioux Falls have the best run social media in the game, even above the Arizona Rattlers, which is surprising. You cannot find even the game results on Instagram or on Facebook for the Rattlers, but you can for the Sioux Falls Storm. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Congratulations, Kaylee. You very much are deserving of this award. Even if you three-peat next year, it will not be undeserving because, trust me, as someone who runs a lot of social media, okay, the fan show's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and the website, I know what all goes into that. And she even does all the graphic stuff. So, yeah, huge amount of respect for her and that whole social media team. Best YouTube broadcast was the Arizona Rattlers. And the only reason Iowa didn't win this is because Joe Stacy is not the one doing the YouTube broadcast for the home games. He doesn't for the away games, which is fine. But that's, he's at the mercy of their media row, their press box, their end zone, and their, of course, quality of YouTube broadcast. So the Rattlers just have it going on all around, and, not a big surprise there. Best front office, back-to-back winner again, Iowa Barnstormers. The Pettits, they're just awesome. They're always willing to accommodate. They're always making sure that I've got what I need, and I definitely thank and appreciate that. They're so welcoming there in Iowa at the Well. Now, let's get to the good ones. Game of the year. Apparently, May 20th is a day to be remembered in the Indoor Football League, because last year's Game of the Year was also on May 20th. Not making this up, because I went over what I awarded last year to people, and there was a few awards that I didn't feel were quite as relevant this year as they were the first time. I did not do Best Fan Base because I feel like it's left to interpretation. And as a fan, I don't want there to be any hard feelings about saying that one fan base is better than another. There are fan bases that are better than others, but I don't think really, looking back at last year in that award, that there was really one that stood above the rest. So Game of the Year, though, definitely one that needs to be there. And last year's Game of the Year was May 20th, the Iowa Barnstormers on the road against the Wichita Falls Nighthawks. Great finish. Ryan Ballantyne with the Spider-Man-like catch, the famous Joe Stacy call on that one. This year, Game of the Year, Iowa Barnstormers in Arizona against the Rattlers. The overtime walk-off 2-point conversion, that was just amazing. That was a huge play. What a great game. A 1-point victory. You cannot ask for more. You cannot script it any better than how that game concluded. So Iowa Barnstormers, Arizona Rattlers, props to you guys for that matchup May 20th. Guess we'll see what May 20th, 2019 has to offer. The next one is Rookie of the Year went to Jeff Ziemba of the Rattlers. He was not the one to start the team. It was Verlin Reed who went down early with an injury, and Jeff's stepped up and went in there, and he has owned it ever since. It was a rough early going, but they made it happen. They made it work for him. There was some quarterback controversy. He was not supposed to be the guy in Arizona. That's why they went and picked up Verlin Reed after last year, because he did so well for the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles. But Ziemba went in as a rookie. A lot of people did not know who he was going into this year, and he has owned it. Arizona is one of the best in the league in offense, and their quarterback play has been a large contributing factor of that. He's, I think, third in a lot of categories, right behind guys like Jake Medlock and Lorenzo Brown. So that speaks volumes for his ability. His first time playing indoor football, if you recall the conversation him and I had on the show earlier. Defensive Player of the Year, this was without a doubt the easiest award to give out, because there was one guy that has stood out above the rest, is one of the best in the league in tackles and leads in interceptions, and has been a key factor to this team's success on that side of the ball, which they are one of the best on the defensive side, and that is Bryce Enyard of the Iowa Barnstormers, former Fan Show co-player of the game, him and Brady Rowland. But man, this guy is he's doing things. He's doing great things in the Indoor Football League. Offensive Player of the Year, and was a huge help for Ziemba. That is Daryl Monroe, running back for the Rattlers. He even had to sit on the sidelines for a couple of times this year and still leads the league, or is like second place against total rushing yards, rushing attempts, yards per rush, and then of course leads the league in touchdowns. He had that incredible 11 touchdown performance in a single game for the Arizona Rattlers' 300th victory. What a performance by him. The Fan Show MVP, Lorenzo Brown of the Sioux Falls Storm. He's either first, second, or third in every category for a quarterback, and that includes rushing and rushing touchdowns. The man, we didn't get to see what would happen if he wasn't under center for that offense, but man, you have to wonder what kind of Storm team we would be looking at if he wasn't there for every down. But he has done a phenomenal job this season. He's a great guy, great leadership, definitely taking on the role of Tyler Knight after retiring last year. But Lorenzo Brown, your Fan Show 2018 Most Valuable Player. And that brings us to the best one, the Coach of the Year, who you may recall last year's recipient, Kevin Guy. I felt he did great, considering they would go on to win the United Bowl. And him taking a brand new team, pretty much so many rookies and first-timers, and they're in a brand new league, and they did not start out very well. They lost to Sioux Falls to start the season. They had not had the best first part of the year. Some people thought that they were going to be out before it even got started. And then they would rattle off several in a row to get them into one of the top seeds for the postseason, and then went on to dethrone what was the reigning champion Sioux Falls Storm, and ending a 7-year streak for them as IFL United Bowl champions. So I thought that what he did with that team, given the circumstances, earned him the Coach of the Year. The IFL disagreed. They gave it to Coach Dixie Wooten, who it was honestly a coin flip difference between the two. Dixie did some amazing things with Iowa, making them relevant for like the first time in a decade, 8-game winning streak, that big win in Wichita Falls, and then getting them into the playoffs. So there was no ill will. There was no reason why I chose one over the other as far as like personal reasons or anything. I was strictly going by like the numbers and by my own personal criteria. So I announced my awards last year, and I get a phone call. What are you doing, man? Kevin Guy is the Coach of the Year. He's like, did he blah, blah, blah? And he rattles off all these numbers. And I'm like, Dixie, I love you, man, but this is what I based it off of. And he's like, that's all right, man. That's all right. We're gonna go on. We're gonna win the United Bowl. I said, okay, man. Now Kevin Guy did, and Dixie would be named the IFL's Coach of the Year. But this year, I post him, and his name got left off because the cropping that I did for the photo, accidentally, his name was at the bottom, and it accidentally cut off his name and the Coach of the Year award. And so I had to put it in the caption. And so that was funny. And then I posted on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And so finally I retweet it and I say, Dixie Wooten finally gets the Coach of the Year award from the Fan Show, and I don't hear a peep out of him. If you knew our history, you would understand the irony of that. So congratulations, Coach Dixie Wooten, on your Coach of the Year award, courtesy of the Fan Show. I love doing these awards. It's always fun. They're great conversational pieces. Much more positive note than, of course, the weekly power rankings. But he finally got back to me. He's like, I just saw this, and thank you. You know I appreciate this. But it's so funny. Coach Dixie Wooten's a great guy. And, we're going to see if maybe we can get a hold of him at the end of the show. But I do want to thank everyone for your input, your feedback. Congratulations to the winners. And with that, we are now going to go to my interview. This week's Battlebots Get to Know You segment is with Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force. He's had a hell of a season this year. And I got to go work on the Battlebots weekly top 10. I haven't had a chance to do those yet because of the awards, which I think is perfectly acceptable. But, hey, don't be too upset. We'll get those out to you soon. So enjoy my conversation with the man behind one of the most deadly bots in all of BattleBots, Bite Force. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me now for this week's BattleBots segment is a man who I am a big fan of, so how fitting for Fan Appreciation Week Part 2. We have Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force. How you doing, Paul?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I gotta say, I wasn't kidding about me being a fan of you. I think that your bot is damn near perfect, and it's proven so far this season. We are in the thick of Season 3, and it's been just so entertaining. You have gone out there, you have kicked ass. Have you exceeded your own expectations this season?
Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for being a fan, because not everyone is a fan, and not everyone is a fan of things I've produced in the past also. So that does mean a lot. And do I think I have sort of the perfect design? The answer is definitely no. I think that's the part that keeps me building for almost 20 years now, is because there is no perfect design. And I think that's the biggest part of the engineering challenge, is trying to come up with something that's the right blend of everything else. And I think that's the coolest part about BattleBots, is just that really there is no one ultimate thing, or you'd see the same thing win every time.
Yeah, and, part of my segments, I mean, a lot of people know that I tend to be biased in some of the stuff that I do. BattleBots is no exception. Now, I want to give the best coverage and segments here on the Fan Show that I can, but, I was down there for the tapings. I got, a lot of really good on-camera interviews, and so these weekly segments, I'm trying to talk with people and get to know the ones that I didn't have a chance to interview while I was there. And so I've had the guys from Huge on, of course. We had the guys from Double Jeopardy, and then last week Al Kindle with Blacksmith, and these are all bots that each one brings its own uniqueness to the table. I think one of my favorite things about a bot is its ability to go out there and stay true to what it is. It's why I love Ed and Sharko, is because he's not the most conventional BattleBot fighter.
Well, that's his style.
Yeah, that's his style, exactly. And to see it come to life and in action is really something special, as well as, with Huge and Blacksmith and bots like that. Chomp even was a great one. What's the most envious bot design out there for you as a builder?
Well, the one I usually answer with when people say, like, what's your favorite? Because it's a common question. Usually I'll say Bronco, and the reason is it's the most fun for me to watch live in person at an event. And that's not the same answer I would give for other reasons. But when you're at a big event with 250-pound robots, there is nothing like watching Bronco, because you're sort of literally on the edge of your seat the entire time. And it's like adrenaline pumping, and you're hoping they get a good opportunity for a big flip. And then when they nail it and something's going 10 feet in the air, it's super exciting. And I try to think of it when I watch them fight. I try to imagine how I would drive while being Bronco and how I would drive against them. And so it's sort of tough to imagine that one moment that is like the really big hit. Otherwise, though, I really appreciate more of the engineering design side, sort of the fit and the finish of the machines. And so for me, it's the details of many machines. So I like a lot of things that, Hal Rucker has worked on over the years.
Yeah.
With Duck being one of his less impressive builds, not in a negative sense, just because I like all the engineering sense. It didn't have as many of his usual new, unusual, crazy tricks going on. But I still love Duck is one of my favorites to check out in the pits. Like, it's sort of like, which table do I walk by the most? And so seeing whatever Hal builds is always up there for me. And a lot of robots have inspired me in the past. I've sort of been interested in sort of a Shredderator from Brian Neve.
Yeah.
And then way back in the day when I was younger, for sure, the most influential was Hazard for me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Reading the old websites of Dan Danknick and Tony and all them. So that's why my middleweight was sort of modeled after Hazard, and then my heavyweight Brutality was sort of a combination of Shredderator and Hazard. Shredderator on the internals and Hazard from the sort of overall design aspect. And those are some of my favorites. But it's really, I like checking out all the machines and seeing some small detail sort of in every machine. And you don't get that at a glance, and you certainly don't get that from watching them on TV. So actually how the robots sort of behave and end up working in the box is not as interesting to me as seeing the details in the pits.
Yeah, the pit was something special while I was down there. I mean, really, it's just a beehive of people working, tinkering, trying to get stuff ready for the next fight, strategize. I mean, it was something. And you're right, Hal Rucker and what he did with Duck becoming a fan favorite and seeing him in action, that was certainly special. There's no rhyme or reason, I noticed, when it comes to Battlebots, what will attract the fans, like what will draw them to a specific bot. Because I know a lot of people, there's a big fan pop for Sharko, which, as we mentioned, is more than just a gimmicky bot. And then, of course, for Duck as well, which is about
But that's
a
good point. Even with the Shark robot, right? That's one where if it behaved badly and had a gimmick, it would certainly be like hated by the fans. But because it has a gimmick and did okay, then it's really skyrocketed.
Yeah, so it's earned a certain level of respect. Yeah. And Hal Rucker with Duck is almost the opposite with how simple it is. But I look around at these bots and all the ones that I got to see up close and in person, and then, of course, in the battle box. You bring up a great point with Bronco. I do love a bot that can go out there and it's kind of the knockout artist, right? It's the bot that in 3 minutes it's looking for its one opportunity to end the whole thing. Now, my dream matchup for Bronco isn't necessarily against like a Tombstone where it works the same upside down as right side up, or even rotator, but one that can self-right, so even if it does flip, it gets right back up and comes back for more. And that's the kind of bot matchup that I would be looking for. But do you have a preference on the kind of fight that you like? Do you like to see the Bronco one-hit knockout, or do you like to see just how much apart Tombstone can tear another bot?
That's a good question. I'll answer that in two parts because you're reminding me, really one of my all-time favorite robots really was also the Judge. From the engineering perspective of seeing inside sort of how simple and robust it looked, but then also in the arena, because whenever that hammer would fire was just something phenomenal. And so it's different, of course, than Chomp, although there's a lot of similarities with Yasha also being on Zoe's team and all that. He's obviously brought a lot of influence to that team's robot.
Yeah.
The difference, of course, was that the Judge was so much heavier and longer and bigger. It was also stable. So one of the best fights that I've heard other people say their all-time favorite match was the old Bronco, you call it Toro or whatever version was a heavyweight against or super heavyweight against the Judge at a Battle Beach event. And so it was one of these years where there were some video cameras, but taking the recorded video and getting it onto a computer was like impossible. So I don't think there's any footage of that fight that exists, but I know that was a real back and forth match where they were being flipped and then self-righting and then coming down with a hammer with a big hit, and then repeating that kind of a thing.
Oh, wow.
So for a better fight, what I want to see, of course, I think it's a lot of back and forth action. I don't think anyone in really any sport wants to see a blowout, and especially if I am not a fan of things like boxing, just because I keep imagining myself getting injured. But when a 1 second match knockout in boxing is not what you want to see. Obviously, you want to see them go a few rounds and really get some even matchup. And same thing with the last few seconds of basketball, the last few seconds of football is, in some sense, the only part you need to watch. So for Battlebots, it's sort of the opposite. You need to watch the beginning, because that's where all the action is going to happen if there's going to be a one-sided fight. And so sometimes if a fight's starting and I ran over to the arena or TV to try to catch the action, and it was a minute into the fight, I've already missed it, but I see two robots limping around, I'm going to turn around and not keep watching that match. And so I think we all want to produce really even good matchups that go the full 3 minutes with a lot of damage. It's just that those things don't go hand in hand. And so sometimes we get those. So when the producers, told myself and Blacksmith, they said, we want you guys to be the first fight. We know they're going to turn on your robot. It's going to work and it's going to last and put on a good match. That's sort of hard to actually pick what'll be a good match that'll actually work the whole time. And it turns out, of course, both of our weapons sort of died in that match from all the big hits there. So I like to watch ones where there's some back and forth, and I also, though, have a real sweet spot for the ones where parts get sprayed against the wall or the ceiling.
So
I don't think anyone will deny that. I'd rather watch a 5-second knockout where Son of Wadashi or something throws the robot into the wall, as opposed to watching 3 minutes of two robots limping around, or even matchup but really lame robots.
So on that note, you have no remorse for what you did to Will Bales in Hypershock, then, I take it.
I don't have any remorse. No, not at all. We're trying to do the same thing to each other. I mean, if Bite Force was knocked upside down in that match and he came at us, I would expect, the same type of tenacity. It's not like I did anything different. I just sort of went at him with the robot. We didn't realize that those rubber shock mounts would shear, obviously. I had a similar problem in the last season when we did the new version of Bite Force. In the first match against Mohawk, we were using almost the exact same rubber shock mounts, which work in a lot of situations, and they're really strong, but of course their failure motor is just ripping right off. And we lost all of our little wedges and forks just by driving into Mohawk, which was really embarrassing in the first few seconds. No one really noticed because it wasn't the kind of thing where you could really tell what was going on. But of course we could tell. And so I think he was using those same rubber shock mounts, holding his top on. And, just if they exceed the force, they just rip right off.
Well, very good point. I wanted your thoughts on when it comes to the type of action that we see in the ring, which we've touched a little bit on, but more specifically, if you feel like certain aspects of what goes into BattleBots maybe gets overshadowed by another. And so the example that I'll use for this is we have, Ray Billings, which seems to have like what you would consider maybe the perfect bot design, which the one that works both ways, upside down, right side up, and has a killer weapon. But Ray is also an incredible driver. I mean, he can get in there, he can maneuver, he can do whatever he needs to do, but that gets kind of put on the back burner because of how effective his bot and his weapon is. Where if you take a Gamma 9, you have technically a weapon, but it's a clamp, but so much of what Gamma 9 is the driver and that driving ability and the ability to grab another bot and throw it around and push it in the box where you want it to go. Is that something that you feel deserves a bit more emphasis in the culture that is BattleBots, the skill of the driver as opposed to the weapon design?
Actually, I don't, and I think there's already too much emphasis on being the driver, only because I feel that what makes it appear like someone is a good or a bad driver is purely robot design and robot execution. So what I mean by that is if you take a well-designed robot and you put it in the hands of someone who's never driven a BattleBot in their life, and it's got sort of like maybe an RC car control or pistol grip, they can probably make it do what they want. Now, if you take a robot that's two-wheel drive with a short wheelbase, and it's geared for 30 miles an hour with slippery wheels and dragging some part in the front, even the best driver will have a hard time making that go in a straight line, even just literally a straight line. When you add on the fact that the Battlebots floor is uneven, and maybe also that one side of this robot has, more friction from the last match with a bent axle you didn't see, or the speed controller is cutting in and out, or something like that. To me, what looks like good driving is a well-designed robot with good execution and good pit crew work. And of course, driving matters, but that's where all things being equal, if we all have the same machine, then driving will matter a lot. That's what NASCAR is and RC car racing and all the other stuff. But in this case, I think that the robot design dramatically overshadows robot driving. And I would challenge the fact that I do think, say, Ray is an excellent sort of robot driver controller, but I think Tombstone itself is one of the, more poorly driven robots, because there's a million times in past matches you can watch where Tombstone is by itself and just drives his weapon into the wall at full speed. It's sort of like, it's because the nature of the robot is so unwieldy and there's so many forces at play, and it's dragging a steel bar and the two-wheel drive aspect. And so that's a criticism I have there, is that it does take, his skill to wield it down to what we see. And if you put Tombstone in the hands of a beginner, it would be a disaster. So it is Ray's excellent driving that handles that, but Tombstone itself would look like it's driven a lot better if it had, four wheels and a sort of longer configuration and weight over all the wheels, that kind of a thing.
So last question that I have for you then is, we're in the midst of season 3, as I mentioned, which is a whole new format. There's the fight night fight card in the regular season, as it were, and then the 16 bracket seeding and tournament that follows. So the idea is that they wanted to give us more action, obviously, as fans, give you guys more opportunities, not be one and done, and really test your knowledge and your depth as far as equipment and everything goes. So having played out all of season 3 as a competitor, and you've seen this now play out on television for the first part, do you think the new format and having a regular season has accomplished what they set out for it to do when they brought this idea to the table?
I think yes is definitely the short answer. It has accomplished that, because the big thing overall was we need to find a way. This is from the Battlebot perspective. I don't want to speak for them, but it's from what I surmise from things they've said and conversations we've had in private, is that they need the more episodes. They need, let's say, 20 episodes. That's the only way to make the show sustainable, in the sense that you're selling that many more commercials. That's really the easiest way of thinking about it. And if you want that many episodes, you need that many fights. And so you could either imagine some impossibly large bracket, one way, or multiple weight classes, which they found in the past was very confusing to the audience to follow along with different weight classes, because on TV things all look similar.
Yes.
And so having this method, and also I do think that it is a show. It's also a competition, but it's really a show first. It's really the reason we're at Battlebots and not other events. You need to have some, massaged brackets kind of a thing. And so the way to do that, I think, and have it not be too influenced by the producers, and is to just have this regular season, or whatever you want to call it, the fight night fight cards, where you're picking these dream matchups. So that's where you'd pick, the two heavyweight boxers to go against each other in a big showdown in Vegas. So you just cherry pick and you say, we want Tombstone versus Minotaur. Everyone wants it. Let's do it. That way you don't have to pretend that you're trying to be sneaky about it and how you do a bracket and say, oh, look, we pulled them out of the hat. It just looks like this amazing fight. And so I think that's fine. I think everyone's there to put on a show, and you're willing to – the whole point is that everyone can go against anyone. So whether or not you get the big bad robot is everyone has the same risk. And so we all know that going in. You can choose to not play. You can choose to go home, obviously, if you want to. And therefore, you get the regular season being, in my opinion, better, because you have some thought to how you do the matchups. And then for the actual final tournament, I also think it's a little better in the sense that you're able to put more robots in there that have been tested. And you know that they're going to work a little better. You know they've already put on a good show. It puts a little more emphasis on the final thing being one loss and you're out. Now, from the builder perspective, of course, it's very unsustainable in the way it's precisely was implemented, just because it's just too many of the preliminary matchups. I don't know if that number means 2 is better or 3 is better, but 4 preliminary matchups starts getting just too time intensive and cost expensive for parts. So the big challenge for us was the length of time of the event, and then secondarily is the cost of any spare parts and things, which all depends on your individual robot design and which components you use. But so I think there's some balance to be struck still, but overall I like it. I think it's awesome.
What's your dream matchup, and do you get it this season?
I think the dream matchup is sort of irrelevant. It's more of a dream match, and I think that was Hypershock for me for sure in that sense. Just because for doing it for so many years, I've had plenty of losses, plenty of wins. I've had my own robot parts strewn across the arena. The worst was when I faced Megabyte one time. All of my batteries thrown across the floor in one big hit, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I have had all that happen, but to have one go really well on a big stage is a big deal. So when you have like a 12-pound robot at the local event and you hit some robot parts into the ceiling, it's not such a big deal compared to if you can actually make it happen on Battlebots while they're filming and they air it on a cool network. So the timing of all that was really cool. And of course, we love the Hypershock guys and Will and all of them. And so it's sort of more fun to have it happen to someone that's your friend as opposed to a random person or that kind of thing. So that was pretty good. Otherwise, matchup wise, a lot of combat robotics is just getting underneath the opponent, and it doesn't matter what kind of weapon system you have. If you want to defeat Tombstone with 1/8-inch aluminum, you can, as long as it's like a 12-foot long wedge that's really shallow. And so if someone's underneath you, doesn't matter what your design is, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so I think I just want to not face people that are really focused all their robot design energy on getting underneath you. And that you don't have as much of in Battlebots because of the active weapon rule. So you're not going to face Original Sin, for example, which is just really good at getting underneath people. And he's got, 40 or 50 pounds of steel in the front that's nice and sharp on the ground, that kind of a thing. And so I really like when I could fight anyone who doesn't have floor scraping stuff. So I was pretty worried about like Hypershock, for example, because of their forks.
Yeah, no doubt. But I am glad that you got your dream victory, I guess, as it were. Looking back at it now, poor Will Bales, but it's okay because he's still got all of his fans on Reddit, so I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Oh, he's got more matches coming up. That's one of the neat things is we're already, I think, about 6 episodes in. And we still haven't even seen all the machines yet.
Yeah, I know. I was counting one time. I said, there's 55, and I don't think we've seen even like 40 of them yet. So very excited for the rest of the season. But, Paul, it's been absolute delight to see you in action out there. And I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to talk to you in person while I was at the tapings. But I've enjoyed the season so far. Wish you the best of luck. And, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on this week's segment for Battlebots.
Sure, no, it's a pleasure. I've listened to your show before, and it's really fun. I like to see your perspective too, and the questions you've asked your other guests and all that. So I'd be glad to come back anytime, and really glad to see the rest of the season play out, and excited to see our next matches.
All right, he is Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force, and man, does it mean business. So we will definitely have you on as the season progresses, probably right around tournament time. But hey, enjoy the rest of the regular season and the fight cards, and we'll talk again soon.
Sure, thanks very much.
Yeah, have a good night.
Good night.
Can you guys hear that? Oh, I don't want to wake the baby. We got a sweet, purring, snoring kitten here. And that's going to do it, Fan Nation, for this Wednesday edition of the Fan Show, as I try to talk super quietly here to keep him asleep. If you can hear my voice over the soothing sounds of kitty purrs. But Fozzie, I guess I put him to sleep. It's not the goal here on the Fan Show, but hey, whatever gets the kiddo to settle down for a little bit. You pet parents out there, I'm sure you understand and realize and respect the struggle. The struggle is very real. But hey, Fan Nation, thank all of you for tuning in once again this Wednesday edition. Once again, congratulations to the award winners of the 2018 Fan Show IFL Awards. We will have NAL Awards also this year. That's probably coming up at the end of July. So be on the lookout for that. And we are onward and upward, moving on to the next. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for part 3, the last part of the 2018 Fan Show Appreciation Week. We've got plenty of fans to come on, hang out. It's going to be a great time. You won't want to miss it. So tune in, same Fan Show time, same Fan Show place tomorrow night. And until then, Fan Nation, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners. And remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night. Good night, Fozzie.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.